What's going on, everybody? This is Mike, and this is Serial at Night, episode number 55. And today, got a few things to chat about. Excuse me. Want to talk about the Epic Game Store. Still a lot of conversation going on about that. I have some thoughts. Mostly, is it smart business? Is it lazy business? Or is it bullshit? I think it's all three. I think it can be all three, so we'll get to that. Also, I wanted to talk about some Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. A lot of controversy about whether or not it should have an easy mode or not. I'm going to sound like a bit of a hypocrite because I have opinions on that. And then I'm also going to chat a little bit about Nintendo and some of their more recent releases, specifically their platformers, like Yoshi's Crafted World, and even Kirby, and just my thoughts about what the hell Nintendo, in my opinions. But let's get to Epic. So lots of news in the last couple weeks about Epic. A lot of conversation about Epic, and maybe some business ethics issues and different, business morality conversations have popped up over the last few weeks. But, I want to argue a few points here. And so when it comes to the Epic Game Store, the funny part for me is that if Epic wouldn't have chased down exclusivity for all of these games that they've gotten, starting really kind of the big one was Metro Exodus, I probably would have purchased those games on the Epic Game Store just because of the revenue split between the developer and Epic. But since they started going down this path of either purchasing timed exclusivity or, offering revenue guarantees in pulling those games from Steam, that kind of goes against really what I love about PC gaming. I like PC gaming because of the choice, because you can get games for the most part where you want them. You can shop, you can find them, cheaper on the stores of choice, so on and so forth. And so when Epic started doing the exclusivity, it rubbed me the wrong way. Now, I'll get to that, a little bit of that in a moment, but I wanted to kind of get my take out there that, if they wouldn't have went this route, I would have maybe given Epic more of a shot. That said, Epic's been hugely successful with Fortnite. As a private traded company, I couldn't find, so I wanted to try to chase down if they had any of their financial reports posted online. I couldn't find any of them. As a private traded company, they're not required to, or a private company, they're not required to post as many financials publicly, I think, if any, to, public forums. That said, some websites like SuperData and other outlets purchase this information so they can write stories about it. And I've read a couple different articles pointing to, between $2.5 to $3 billion in profit for 2018. That's a insane number. That's unheard of. So good on Epic, right? They're keeping people employed. They're hugely successful. But I think that, they are smart enough to know that Fortnite isn't going to stay huge forever. And given the popularity of Fortnite, and given the fact that they kind of have a Trojan horse in that game to get people to install an Epic launcher, they were probably smart in doing that. Why not, right? Hey, we need to kind of diversify our business model. Just riding the coattails of Fortnite and, having people just install it direct, let's force them to come through our storefront to do so, right? Smart business. Also smart business is the fact that they may have a small window to become successful with their storefront. Now, what I would have liked to see is Epic come out and create a competitive advantage by creating a better feature set than something like Steam. Since that's kind of it's not worth really kind of pointing to EA or GOG or anything like that. But I would have rather them come out and said, here's a great feature set. The store is more usable. Here's some features and functionality, blah, 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 right? Build a better product. That's what I would have rather seen. But much like games development, software development is difficult. And just building a better product maybe doesn't always guarantee success, especially with the market mind share that Steam has. And so realizing that they might have, a small window or a short window to become successful, they decided to use some of that $2.5 billion to $3 billion in profit and surplus to really kind of corner the market from an exclusivity standpoint. And they did that by doing one of two things. And the first, I haven't been able to completely quantify. We don't have full details on this, so I'm going to go off of what has been reported so far. They either, one, are buying exclusives straight up, making it very difficult. I mean, look, on PC, who knows what the target and projected revenues on these games really are. So they're saying, hey, we're going to give you X amount of money. You're going to bring it to our store. Or second, and this is what's being reported, they've been doing guaranteed sales, right? And so, for example, if you bring your game to Epic exclusively, and they're going to guarantee you perhaps $2 million in sales. And now this is really kind of a low risk on Epic's part and a win on the dev side. If you don't get $2 million in sales, we're going to make up the difference. Now, I'm of two minds here. I think that's great for developers if you're not confident in your game getting $2 million. If your projections don't put you at $2 million bucks, regardless if you go to Steam and Epic saying we're going to guarantee you $2 million in sales, that actually makes a lot of business sense from a budgeting standpoint. Now, you can argue there's soft measures here about pissing off the community. I mean, certainly that goes a long way, but when you have employees to pay and you have forecasts that aren't $2 million and you want to make that money and you want to make another game, I certainly understand why a developer would go that route. And so to my earlier point, I would have probably bought games on Steam or on Epic to further support developers based on the revenue split. But that didn't guarantee, that sometimes wouldn't have guaranteed they would have gotten to $2 million or whatever that guaranteed sales are, right? It just that who knows, right? And so it makes smart business sense for Epic to, and probably devs, for them to, build this relationship this way, right? And if Epic can't, or won't play on the feature by feature front, the fastest way to force people into installing and using their launcher is to get timed exclusives. Also, I'm sure they've run the numbers. I think there's a I feel like I'm probably in one of the vocal minority about not wanting to install the Epic Store and use it because of this. And that's kind of the catch-22. I would have supported this had it not been for exclusives, but I just think this growth strategy is lazy, and I don't want to support it, so I'm not. I don't know if other people care as much, and from the looks of it, people don't. Maybe the general PC player, the Fortnite player, or the casual console player that also jumps over to PC from time to time to get the free Epic game, because Epic's getting free games, or to buy that exclusive, maybe they don't care, but I do. I do. And I don't want to support it. So I'm not. But on one hand, from a financial standpoint, I think it probably makes a lot of sense for the developers to do this at times. And I think from it's a marathon, not a sprint, in building a storefront. It probably makes smart business sense for Epic to take some losses up front in order to build this thing out. I mean, let's look at history. Many people have come along to try to compete with Steam, and they haven't been able to do it on a feature by feature, and they haven't been able to get market share. Now, is this competition in the true sense of the word? Maybe not. Just buying exclusives it's competition, but it's not this feature by feature competition of we're going to build a better product in the open market that is PC gaming. This is, we're going to corner the market and create a competitive advantage that way and kind of quote unquote force people into using the store. I mean, you don't have to use it, but if you want to play some of these games on launch, you're going to have to. Borderlands 3 is a good example, right? So in a lot of ways, I can see why devs and publishers and Epic would go about business in this way. That said, okay, that's the smart business aspect of it. I think it probably is smart business. That said, I think it's lazy business. I think when you go into a market that you know is difficult and competitive, and really, and I don't know if I don't know if I'd call Steam a quote unquote monopoly, but you have a Windows Store, you have Steam, you have GOG, you have EA access for a few things, or EA Premier, Ubisoft, Uplay. That if you come in and win on features and try to win on features, that would be kind of the more noble way to do it. When you have money, you don't have to do that. But it goes deeper than just being lazy and buying exclusives. It seems that they've been lazy with their security. It seems they've been lazy with their messaging. Quite honestly, it seems they just don't give a shit, and they've been very blunt about that from a messaging standpoint. They're talking out of both sides of their mouth, trying to appease Tim Sweeney, trying to appease the pissed off gamers and potentially the casuals. There's issues with how they're importing the Steam's friend list, even though, yeah, you're granting access if you want that to happen. I installed it for a while and I did grant access. I had no idea that they were actually accessing my local Steam files on my machine. I assumed they were importing that using the Steam API. So when I first heard this, I thought, well, this isn't really an Epic problem. This is kind of a Steam problem. Steam opens up APIs, and through the API, this data is available. Why not import it? Then it came out that they were accessing a local file that they could parse, remove information, and send it up to the cloud. This file that they're accessing also has information about save data tokens, purchase history, different things like that. And this is kind of twofold, because some of this falls on Steam for not encrypting this file, but it is kind of dirty pool a little bit. And that bothers me. It's lazy that they continue to tell us, hey, the Metro thing. When they were already in an arrangement with Steam, and we came in and did the exclusivity deal, and that pissed a lot of people off. We're not going to do that again. And then they went and did it again with Borderlands. So there's a lot of laziness for how they're going about this. And it does. It bothers me. It rubs me the wrong way. And I don't want to support it. If other people want to support it, fine. I don't. Okay. And now to the third point. Is it bullshit? Yeah, I think it's bullshit. I do. I think when you look at everything that they've done, okay, I think when they started out and said, hey, we're going to open up a store that gives a better revenue split to put pressure on Steam, I think that was fine. And there's other arguments about, how much Steam really gets because they let developers create their own keys. So Steam really maybe isn't always getting 30%, but the split is, I think, 88-12 on Epic and 70-30 on Steam. The difference is Steam allows devs to create their own keys and distribute their own keys to other stores. And so when those keys are redeemed, Steam doesn't see any of that money. Okay, that doesn't mean that publishers and devs aren't getting, it doesn't mean they're getting more than 70% because they're still probably creating different relationships and business deals to distribute those keys that they can create. So that's why Steam's revenue their split's probably higher, but they do that because they want to keep an open market. I mean, that's their messaging. We want to keep an open market, so they, give the publishers and developers full access to creating their own Steam keys, right? So then in order to offset some of that, the split with Steam is 30-70. Epic doesn't allow for that, and Epic's split is 88-12. So when they came in and did that, I thought, okay, well, that's going to put some pressure on Steam, right? Regardless. Fine, that's a good look. But then you start to add it all together. You're closing up the PC market. The reasons I'm only going to speak for myself here. The reasons that I think it's bullshit is because I come to PC for choice. For choice of hardware, for choice of launcher, for choice of software, for choice of where I purchase games, how I store my games, how I play my games, right? Sometimes I pay a little more to have my games on the Windows Store because maybe I want Xbox achievements. Sometimes it's a game that I'm waiting on and I just buy it at its cheapest price when it's on sale. Sometimes it's a launch game and I get it on Steam, because that's where my friends are, and that's where my 400 game library is, so I want it on Steam. Sometimes I just buy it on Uplay, right? I mean, and this is the other thing. Uplay exclusivity is way different because they're making their own games exclusive, not third-party games. I don't have a problem if a publisher wants to make their own games exclusive to a launcher, but if all of a sudden Uplay said, hey, we're the only place to play Borderlands, that would piss me the fuck off. Right? And it's funny because console users say, well, timed exclusives happen with third parties all the time on console. Yeah, it does. And that pisses me off too. I don't like that business model either. I think that's lazy and bullshit too. But I think it's even more bullshit on PC. I really do. And when we don't sit here and think that this isn't, look, as these launchers and these services and the lack of, the hardware agnostic future starts to come forward and games become more service based. And I've been in support of this in a lot of ways to remove barrier to entry. I'm not going to be a customer right away, but this is going to be a problem for everybody. This will find its way to quote unquote console users because I don't think the traditional console user is going to exist in 5 years. Right? Once these services start to pick up and you can do streaming and you can have hardware, as there's going to still be hardware, but you're buying subscriptions and buying games on different storefronts potentially. This stuff could make it to console and start to piss off everybody, right? But the console argument doesn't hold up for me in the fact that that's kind of always been that way on console. PC has always been the open space to go to. And when you look at everything, lack of features and functionality on the Epic Store, the security issues on the Epic Store, the fact that they have their own proprietary authenticator and you can't just use Google Authenticator for two-factor pisses me off. The fact that they're accessing Steam, direct Steam local data pisses me off. I think it's fucked up. I really do. And I think it's lazy. And even though I think it's probably smart business from Epic's standpoint, I will not support it. I'm not going to. I uninstalled the launcher. I don't want it on my machine. I don't think it's good for PC gaming. I don't think it's good for the consumer. In the long run, I'm not even sure how good it is maybe for the developers. But it is what it is. And maybe I am in a minority here, and I know there's other people that are vocal about it too, but this is the only way I can make my voice heard, and that's how I feel about it. So be it. If you don't have a problem with it, I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to tell people how to spend their money or what business practices they should be comfortable with, and what, consumer to business relationships that they want to have with different brands. Fine, fuck it. If you are okay with it, go spend your money there. But I'm not, and so for that reason, it's bullshit to me. So I think enough on the Epic Store. Let's move on to Sekiro Shadows Die Twice and the controversy that is the difficulty. So, as Sekiro has become, well, not really Sekiro, but From Software, and their popularity is continuing to increase, and that's fantastic, right? I think with Dark Souls, it was kind of a niche game. And then Bloodborne came out and really kind of picked up steam because it was the environments were just awesome. And then Sekiro Shadows Die Twice comes out, and everybody loves ninjas. And so there's a lot of people that want to play the game. And here's the thing. Here's what I've noticed lately is that now we're getting to a point where, and this isn't going to be a rant, but again, where everybody wants to be a part of the conversation, everybody wants to have a hot take, and everybody, wants to talk about this game on their podcast or play through the game, right? It just seems like this epidemic of a game came out, it's AAA, everybody's talking about it, it's getting good scores, so if it's getting good scores, that game has to be for me, I want to play it. Okay? And I get it. I'm doing it right now. But I don't think in this instance, so the complaint is people either buy the game, find out it's extremely difficult and requires a ton of effort to not only get good at it, but to play consistent enough to get through the entire game. And what that led to was piles and piles and piles of articles and conversation about should it have an easy mode. And this is kind of, so my answer is no, it shouldn't. I don't think it should in any way. But let me first acknowledge and argue the other side of it. Because there was two types of articles that came out about this. One type of article that was kind of eloquently written about why it probably wouldn't be damaging to the game, which I don't necessarily agree with. And then other ones that came across, and I don't try to throw the entitled gamer term out there lightly, but I did read an article on Forbes that read extremely just crybaby of this game's too hard, but I want to play it, make it easy for me. You didn't make your game for me. You should modify your game to make it for me so I can play the game that I want to play, not the game that you made, kind of take. Then there was, like I said, there was another article that was more geared around, hey, would it really hurt to have an easy mode. It would allow more people to explore this fantastic world and these interesting bosses that From Software created. So I get it. From made a great game, and a lot of people want to enjoy it. Here is my thing. Developers should make the game that developers want to make. And if those games historically and are still performing in a way that allows them to fulfill their creative vision for a game with minimal compromises and remain profitable, retain your ability to make more games and stay true to your creative direction, and continue to employ people and positively impact the game industry, I think you should continue to do that and not give a shit about an easy mode. Right? There's a certain cachet that comes along with a From Software game and a person's ability to finish the game. And I buy them every time. And every time I probably play them for 10 to 15 hours and I suck at them, I enjoy my time and I move on. Never do I want the game to be easier. I know what I'm getting into, and that's why I'm there. And I think by putting an easy mode into a game, and this is where I think Bullshit Ass Kotaku wrote this story, but they said an easy mode has never ruined a game. I don't know if it's ever ruined a game, but it can take away from that cachet, to put it, for lack of a better term, that comes with beating a From Software game, right? And if everybody can go beat it, certainly people can still put it on hard mode, but then we're back to, well, did you play the baby bitch mode, or did you play the hard mode, the real mode, the intended mode? And some games are made to be accessible for all experiences of players. Uncharted, Tomb Raider, so on and so forth. And then there's some games that are made directly for a specific audience, and they make them really fucking good, and they build the game they want. I don't want that diluted because every person wants to have an opinion on a game. Sometimes the game just isn't for you, even if you want it to be. Would there be direct harm? Probably not. But it loses some of that aura that comes along with it. And I'm not trying to be dramatic and overstate that, but that is something like, oh shit, a From Software game came out. Let's see how good I am. And then usually, depending on the player, you very quickly realize a couple things. You either don't have the time, the dedication, or the skill to complete it. But that said, those games, you can always get the skill. You can always learn it. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that they're willing to stand by it and say, get good, right? I know people hate that, but I love that about the From Software game. So no, I don't think it should have an easy mode. Yes, I do think it could be damaging to at least the brand of those games. You know what they are? You know what you're getting? That's what the dev wants to make. I don't think they need to put an easy mode in. Yeah, I'm not going to go as far as to say putting an easy mode in would be insulting. I see the other side of it, but I just don't see a need for it. Every game doesn't need to be tailored and accessible for every fucking person. It just fucking doesn't. Get over it. Right? Get over it and move on. Or get the game, fuck around with it for a little while, and then, if you can't, pass it or whatever, then trade it back in. I don't know what to say, but you know what you're getting into with the From Software game, and I don't want them to change it. I appreciate their dedication to crafting those worlds, crafting those bosses, and putting the time in to, creating an experience that you need to dedicate yourself to. And it's funny because the creator of Celeste came out, because everyone, I don't know how Celeste got fucking brought into it as kind of a, what do they call them? Splatformers or something? I don't know what all those stupid ass terms that people use, but Yeah, Celeste was great. I played through Celeste. I didn't like this. I wasn't a fan of the story, but I thought the gameplay was great. But somehow the Celeste dev or something starts commenting on how From Software could make an easy mode. I don't give a shit what the Celeste developer thinks about an easy mode. I don't care that Celeste put an easy mode in. I didn't play the easy mode. Like, who cares? That's not the game. From Software's like, who gives a shit what you think? We're making this game. We're making our game. You go make your game, and we'll make our game. So I thought that was just dumb. I don't like it when other devs start to comment on things like that. I know people ask them, so they answer, but that was just stupid. So anyway, that's my thought. I just don't think it's necessary. I don't know how it even became a thing, but it shouldn't have an easy mode. Now, here is where I'm going to sound like a hypocrite in some ways. I alluded to this at the start of the show. Yoshi's Crafted World came out, and I played the demo. I thought the demo was okay. But I remember I was still like, well, hopefully this game is better and has some better mechanics and some better platforming, and maybe the difficulty ramps up as the game goes on, where it's a bit more engaging. Turns out it doesn't. Turns out it's very much like Kirby Star Allies, where it's a cakewalk of a game that you can finish in about 6 hours. Now, time to finish for me is not the value prop. I loved Order 1886. It was a short ass game. I still loved it. It's not time to finish for me, but it's how engaged am I in the game for those 6 hours, 7 hours, whatever it might be. And in both Kirby and Yoshi, the sticking point was, well, it's also part collectathon too. And this is where the crux of my issue is. Yes, the difficulty bothers me. A, because it seems like they're making games for children under 6. And I get it. You want to appeal to that audience. Look, if I'm not in the fucking demographic, I'll take my own advice and not buy the game. I didn't buy this one. Right? And I should probably follow my own advice and go, well, I'm not going to bitch about it. Here's my problem, though. There are kids under 6 that are probably better at games than me. Like, this seems like the most basic of fucking onboarding for a video game of all time. And it's not like it's just one game. It was Kirby, and then it was Yoshi, and it was even Mario Odyssey to an extent. Like, what pisses me off more than the fucking difficulty is the fact that where's Nintendo's great platforming? Where did those go? Because Nintendo, dating back to the NES, the Super Nintendo, the N64, the GameCube, the Wii U, the handhelds, they've always had innovative and engaging and fun platformers. The platforming and collectathon nature, they've dialed the difficulty way down. They've increased the collecting, and the games have been boring and forgettable. And that includes Mario Odyssey. I don't give a shit how many people want to try to tell me Mario Odyssey is a good game. If you enjoy it, fine. I hated that game. It seemed like a chore. It wasn't fun. Look, I don't have a problem with collectathons. As long as the gameplay is engaging, challenging at times, right? It doesn't need to be always challenging. It doesn't need to be a From Software game, but give me some engaging, challenging environments to traverse. I didn't get that in Mario. Mario was just a clusterfuck of levels that weren't fun. Kirby was insanely forgettable. And again, I know, hey, Mike, people are probably yelling at me. The hypocrisy is at an all-time high probably right here. People are probably yelling at me, well, the fucking game ain't for you. Maybe not. But you can't tell me that as a Nintendo fan, I miss the days of Nintendo making great platformers. Nintendo fans love to collect shit, so Nintendo fans will run out, buy these games, play them, and then argue until they're fucking blue in the face that it's a great game. Look how cute it is. This is the da-da-da-da-da. Nobody, I'm telling you, if you're being honest with yourself, nobody can tell me this feels like the same Nintendo from even as recent as, 13 years ago with the Wii. There were better platformers on the Wii than on the Switch. The Switch's best platformers are third-party indie games, and it pisses me off because they don't have a real fucking Joy-Con. The Joy-Con's trash, but that's beside my point. Where is the Nintendo that made fun, engaging, and innovative platformers that were challenging and fun for all ages? Because right now, they haven't released it. And that's the difference for me between From Software and Nintendo. From Software has been consistent with how they make and how they build their games. Nintendo used to be the innovative company that made platformers that were fun and engaging for everybody. And this isn't just me trying to, with an axe to grind for Nintendo. I love Nintendo. I want to see Nintendo make the games that we know they can make again. But we're not getting them. Like, I didn't like Breath of the Wild either, but I can at least, hey, I get that. Like, I can understand why people love Breath of the Wild. I cannot understand people liking Kirby. I can't understand the Yoshi stuff. I don't want to even hear, well, it's a great palate cleanser. That's such a cop-out. That's such a fucking cop-out. It's a great palate cleanser. You know what? Yoshi would also be a great palate cleanser if it was a good platformer and not just a boring snooze fest of a collectathon. That would help. So it's not just about the difficulty. It's about Nintendo making the safest of games. I don't know if I don't know what happened, but I don't like it. So, I don't know. I'm assuming that's going to piss some people off, but I'm not a fan. Not a fan of these latest Nintendo releases. I have yet to play a game on my Switch from Nintendo that I went, holy shit, that was next level. I know for a lot of people that was Breath of the Wild. But it's hard for me to count Breath of the Wild because they announced that for Switch or for Wii U, delayed it, and then put it on Switch, right? Like it's still, I just don't, and people yell at me, I just don't fully count that as a Switch kind of exclusive, I suppose. But I have yet to play a Nintendo game on the Switch where I went, fucking, that was it. That's it. Donkey Kong actually would be a good example, but Donkey Kong was a Wii U game that they ported over. Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze is a fantastic effing game. That's the kind of platforming and innovation that I like to see from Nintendo. But man, I don't understand why they couldn't take that same kind of, fun and challenging. Well, not even, again, I don't even want to use the word challenging. Fun and engaging gameplay from, why can't they replicate that with Kirby or Yoshi? Because I didn't hear anybody, even younger players in my own family, complain that Donkey Kong was too hard, right? But I don't know a single person that has said, other than the game reviews, because game reviews are bullshit, oh, it's this crafted and blah, blah, blah experience of, just making up fucking buzzwords to try to offset the fact that it's not a fun video game. It's not a good video game. So, I don't know. That's where I sit. I know there's some people that feel the same way as I do. I know there are. I know there are probably, Serial at Night really isn't the Retro Focus podcast. Retro is more when Mitch and I get on the mics, but I'm probably having a fucking stroke right now, because I don't like the latest Nintendo releases, but I'm sorry. Maybe I have a different standard when I think of what a Nintendo game is, and I think of innovation, I think of engagement, I think of gameplay, I think of all of these things being their strong points, and Yoshi those are not strong points for Yoshi, those aren't strong points for Kirby, those weren't strong points for Mario. They haven't been strong points for anything Nintendo has put out in the last 2 years. So that's where I stand. That's about it. That's all I got for today. Hit on that big stuff. Hit on Sekiro. Hit on Yoshi. And so we'll call it a podcast. Episode number 55. Thanks, everyone. See ya.